Now, with more on the shocking loss of actor Chadwick Boseman over the weekend. This morning, we're taking a look at what we know about the disease that took his life. And we're going to speak with an expert in just a few moments. But first, TJ Holmes is back with more on colon cancer and why the black community is disproportionately affected. Good morning, TJ.
And look, this is not the cancer that's talked about as much as some others, but colon cancer is one that disproportionately affects African Americans, particularly African American men, and African Americans are disproportionately dying from.
As the world continues to mourn the death of actor Chadwick Boseman, fans are learning that the Black Panther star was a real-life hero.
Keep going back! Keep going back!
Boseman's family revealing that the 43-year-old had been privately fighting cancer for the past 4 years. Many now wondering how colon cancer could strike down someone so young and seemingly fit.
We're expecting about 50,000 deaths from colorectal cancer this year in the U.S. overall.
Colon cancer is the second most common cause of cancer deaths in the U.S. for men and women combined. Colon cancer is much more common among older people. Black men and women also experience higher rates of the disease.
Overall, Black individuals are about 20% more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and 40% more likely to die.
But in recent years, there has been a decrease in colon cancer rates among people 50 and above. Yet the news isn't all good.
Since the 1990s, we've seen this stark and shocking increase in those people under 50. They don't seem to have the traditional risk factors. The majority of them do not have a family history of colon cancer.
Currently, the CDC recommends that screening for colon cancer should begin at 50, but the American Cancer Society suggests starting at age 45.
And the fact of the matter is colorectal cancer patients are now younger as a whole. The median age of diagnosis has dropped to 66 from 72.
Experts say catching colon cancer early is the key to survival.
When it's detected early at stage 1 or 2, survival rates are above 90% in people under 50, whereas for stage 4 disease, only about 20% of patients are alive 5 years after diagnosis.
But according to experts, young people are diagnosed much later. Some say social stigma associated with colon cancer could be a factor.
So if you are under the age of 50 and you are having symptoms, and the most common symptom is rectal bleeding, it is so important that you discuss these symptoms with your doctors so that you can get evaluated. So I think it's important to take away that stigma and to really understand that it's okay to talk about this.
Many now hoping to raise more awareness and break down barriers.
According to his family, Boseman was diagnosed 4 years ago, and Stray, that means that he made at least 7 movies, including Black Panther, after his diagnosis.
That's incredible, TJ. Incredible. Thank you so much. We're joined now by ABC News contributor and emergency room physician Darian Sutton. And Darian, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I just want to know, how has this affected you both personally and as an ER doctor?
Well, good morning, Michael. I have to say that I sat, like many others, in a state of confusion and sadness during this weekend. As a physician, I also sat and thought about all the many cases that present to the emergency room with the early symptoms of the possibility of colorectal cancer, and how many of them have gone on to different paths depending on their access to care and the way they look.
I definitely felt your sadness as well. But why are people of color disproportionately affected by colon cancer and many other illnesses?
Yeah, so as we know, disparities exist, and people of color unfortunately present with colon cancer at later stages of, or more advanced stages of colorectal cancer than their white counterparts, and they're more likely to die as mortality rates are higher for those of Black Americans and Black people in general. What we find is that the answer to that question is multivariable. There are limits to access to care. There are issues with cost of care, and there's also just a lack of community awareness and education. But I think one of the biggest problems is that there's a barrier in communication between providers and patients. The discussion of colorectal cancer and the early symptoms is a really awkward discussion. And if there is a level of comfort and trust that doesn't exist, these notes can often be lost, and that can leave a moment where you can have a crucial interaction for prevention that you won't have if you don't have that level of comfort and contact between your provider and yourself.
Definitely got to have that level of comfort. And what could be done to bridge the medical gap that exists?
So I think that steps have already been made. As we recently just saw, the American Cancer Society states that Black people should have colorectal cancer screenings at 45, which is 5 years younger than the original recommended general population age. And the American College of Gastroenterology agrees. The problem is that insurance companies, most of which do not cover that recommendation. So you leave a deficit that needs to be acknowledged, and we need to continue to advocate and fight for. Another thing is that as a physician, I have to comment on this, is that when we talk about disparities in chronic disease and Black people in general, we think of these ideas as synonymous. And what I try to educate my medical students is that this is not a synonymous issue. Chronic disease, Black people are not born with chronic diseases. They are created most likely from disparities and that exist within the community that we need to fix.
Well, hopefully we can fix that. Dr. Darian Sutton, thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.